Welcome to the 4 Pillars of Men's Health, a podcast of resources for restoring vigor and vitality, bringing you top influencers in the men's health arena, case studies of men who have succeeded and how they did it, and cutting-edge teaching on men's health issues from America's leading men's health guru, Dave Skattum. Get ready to take steps towards good health. Here's your host, Dave Skattum.
Jim Carrey, he's a leading Hollywood star. He was in shows like Bruce Almighty, Ace Adventure, Liar, Liar, Dumb and Dumber, The Mask, one of my favorite shows. He was a firm believer in the magic and the power of affirmations and a positive mindset. Long before he was a successful superstar, he'd already started believing he was going to get what he wanted someday. His thoughts and affirmations were so strong that he got exactly what he wanted. It was him that said that nothing in this world happens without a thought or an intention behind it. Think of that. He imagined his success and constantly believed in it, and today his affirmations have made him a global celebrity. I'm sure you've heard of him. And I am so excited about this podcast and the content in here because of the impact that it's had on my life and the impact that I know it'll have on many people that listen to this and apply these principles. Today, we're going to go through a process of learning what affirmations are, how they impact us, and then I'm going to take you through a little exercise where you can actually start the process of adding affirmations to your life. And I'm telling you, it will change your life, and you will see that after listening to this podcast. Then another thing that I want you to think about is in conjunction with this podcast, we're also going to have like a part 2 and a part 3 where I interview a couple pretty awesome guys who have used affirmations and positive mindset to bring them to a new place in their world and in their career. And I think you're going to really like those two as well. So after you get done listening to this one, check out those other two and part 2 and part 3. And I think you'll really be inspired by those guys, or at least I am. But first, I want to talk to you a little bit about my story towards affirmations and how I got to this place, because I wasn't always here. And years ago, I hired this business coach to help me improve my business acumen, and I just wanted to be a better business person. So I hired this coach, and one of the first things, it kind of confused me a little bit at first, but one of the first things he had me do was he had me sit down and write down 10 things that I want to complete and have in my life. And he said to write those down. And then he said to one by one, kind of imagine how you would feel if you accomplished those things. And so that's what I did. I wrote down, at first I thought, man, this guy's kind of like a little out there in woo-woo land, and I'm not sure about all this stuff. But I did it. I thought it was a bunch of BS, to be honest with you, but I was paying the guy, so he was advising me, so I did it. So for the first month or so, I felt a little bit hypocritical about all this stuff, because I was writing these things down and saying these things to myself that weren't actually true. I was saying to myself things like, that I was going to be a rich person and my business is at this level, and I think I was saying stuff like I was going to be a famous speaker and a well-known author, and all that stuff was just like kind of dream world to me. Really didn't have any truth to it at all. But I kept saying those things to myself, and I felt a little hypocritical. I felt like I was lying to myself, but I just kept doing it because he was my coach and he was telling me this is what I need to do. So I kept going with it, and after a while, I started to notice some changes. And things started to change for me. I started taking steps in these directions, and things started coming true for me. And so these thoughts and these ideas started to transfer into actual events in my life. And, 7 years later, or quite a few years later, it's been more than 7 years, but quite a few years later, most of those dreams and most of those things that I had written down there that I thought were like the craziest things and would only happen to like the most amazing people have happened to me. And I think it all started out with me writing those things down and pursuing them and making them a part of my life. And I think that's how it worked with me. And trust me, I was like this Montana farm boy, construction guy, and I didn't think any of this kind of stuff could happen to me. But through this process, it really has. And just a little bit about what affirmations are. I think affirmations need to be really simple. They need to be like just usually like a sentence or something like that just reflects on where you want to go in your life. And what I did back then was I would, first thing in the morning, I would have my list that I carried with me, and I would just read through it in the morning. Then on my lunch break, I would read through it again. Then in the evening, I'd read through it again. So I was doing it 2 or 3 times a day. And pretty soon, I think it was the craziest thing. These things started happening, and I'm going to tell you a little bit more about it as we go along. But I'm telling you, it radically changed my life. And I think this is kind of how this works. And in our brains or in our being, we have this system. I call it, and I've heard it called the reticular activating system, RAS. And it's kind of like this filter that filters out information that we are bombarded with. We get through all of our sensory systems, through our sight and hearing and smelling and all the senses that we have. We are just bombarded with all kinds of information. So we have to have some kind of an automated system that filters out these things and brings in relevant information to us that our brain can keep and apply. And if it wasn't for this system, we'd just go on overload, and we couldn't handle it. We couldn't deal with life because there's so much, like the wind blowing in our face, or the smell of a hamburger, or the smell of sewage, or whatever. All those things would just be overwhelming to us. And so I think this kind of thing happens in our subconscious, and we're not even aware of it. And that's where this affirmations comes into play, is in our subconscious. And I believe that our subconscious does what it's told. And so when we tell ourselves things that we want to do and want to be, it becomes part of who we are, because we're telling our subconscious that this is who we are now. And that's why it's so powerful, and that's why it's so effective. And but just a little bit of a warning, the reverse is true as well. If you continue to tell yourself negative, unproductive, divisive things like I can never do that, or I'm no good for that, or I'm this or that, but it's in a negative way, you're telling yourself that, and your subconscious will take those things and apply them, and that's who you'll become. So I challenge you to get on track with this and get some affirmations going. In a few minutes, I'm going to go through a little process that I think will help you get on board with that. Another thing that is important is when you say your affirmations repeatedly, a couple things happen. One is that it sends a really clear message to your reticular activating system that forms some powerful subconscious things in your mind. So keep that in mind. This is a subconscious way to really move you to a new place in your life. And again, I want to just make sure you understand this is not all there is to it. I mean, you can't just say to yourself over and over again, I'm going to become a millionaire, I'm going to become a millionaire, I'm going to become a millionaire. Say that 10 times a day and not take any action, because out of these affirmations comes the action. So when you say to yourself, I'm going to become healthy, I'm going to start eating good food, I'm going to, when you start saying those things, all of a sudden you start acting on those things, and that's where the power really kicks in. So those are the things that I want to keep in mind, just kind of a high level, 30,000 foot stuff. But here's 4 steps that I want to take you through I think that will help you bring in some affirmations into your life, and a process that I used to get this affirmation thing going through my coach. And the first thing you need to do is you need to go through a process of identifying your self-talk. What are you really saying to yourself? Just recently, like a couple years ago, I was reading this book on the power of thoughts, and I can't remember who suggested this, but they said through this book, they said to find this app, and I'm sorry, I can't remember what it was, but if you Google it, you can find it. But take an app, and it'll do like an alarm periodically. How you can set it to whatever you want, every 1 minute, every 5 minutes, every hour, every whatever. And I set my alarm to go off every 15 minutes for a 24, or actually, while I was awake. So it's probably a 16-hour period or something like that. And I said to myself, when that alarm goes off, I'm going to write whatever I'm thinking about down on this piece of paper. And I carried a little notebook with me, and I wrote down every thought every 15 minutes that I had. And it was pretty amazing. I'm a pretty optimistic, pretty positive guy, but it was pretty amazing to look back through that journal and see the different things that I was thinking about throughout the day. And that's really a pretty good exercise to identify what kind of stuff you're telling yourself. And, the other day I was talking to a good friend of mine and telling him about a business that I started in my past. And to me, it was kind of like old days story stuff. And I remember a lot of the negative events around that business and some of the financial struggles that I had, time away from my family, some poor decisions I made. And I was telling this guy, all about the negative part of that. And it really wasn't a total, there was some negative things, but there was some really good successful things as well. And it kind of took me by surprise when my friend looked at me, kind of like a shocked look on his face, and he said, "Dave, it's pretty amazing that you could even just start a business like that." And he said, how many people can do that and have even moderate success? And I just kind of set me back a little bit, and I knew that I'd found another negative story that I'd been telling myself instead of focusing on, that business had its, ups and downs and hard points, but really overall it was a fairly successful business. Supported my family for many years, built a house and all these different things. So I think that's the first step is identifying what you are really saying to yourself. Sometimes I think we have stuff so deeply ingrained that we don't even realize some of the negative things and some of the positive things. Usually it's the negative things that really wipe us out. But that's the first step. And here's a way that you can do this. What I would recommend, besides that exercise of every 15 minutes or a half hour a day, writing down your thoughts, you could do this. You could just take a 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper and fold it in half long ways. So now you have like 4.25 by 11, something like that. And on the left side, just flip it over. On the left side, just start writing down some of the things that you tell yourself. Like, do you ever say to yourself, "I just don't have enough vacation time," or "I'll never get in shape," or "I'll never be able to quit eating this junk food." I'll never be able to earn enough money to where I'll be able to just retire and be comfortable. And just start writing those things down that you're saying to yourself. And you might even ask some friends reflect with them. I wouldn't go with any shallow friends, but some people that you really love and trust and that love you, and ask them, what kind of things do you hear me saying about myself? And write those things down. And don't just try and do this in 10 minutes. Take some days, take a few, like even a week of just observing and thinking about the things that you're saying to yourself. And keep this list of paper with you and write them down as they come to you. And especially the negative ones we're focused on right now are the negative ones, because those are the ones that we want to really change. And when you think you have them all written down, just wait. Take a little more time with this. This is really important to just take some time with this. So more will come. And once you empty out that top layer in your mind, the next layer will be revealed and released. And you just need to take some time and really get a full list of all the garbage talk that you're saying to yourself. If you're having difficulty accessing these layers in your mind thought, here's just like I had a coach. I would encourage you, if you're having a hard time digging into this stuff, there's coaches and therapists that can really help you with this. And if you want to go really deep and have a really big impact, I'd recommend, if you're not having any luck yourself, go that direction. Find a coach, find a therapist that can help you get to the bottom of this and really dig down deep into this stuff. It's going to be really important. So now you spent some time with this. You have this paper. You have all these this list of these things that you're saying to yourself. Now here's what you want to do. You want to flip it over to the other, like unfold it. So now you have blank on one side and this list on the other side. And you might have a few sheets of these. I don't know, if you're really struggling in this area, this is something that you might have a few sheets on, but just unfold them. So now you have a blank sheet, blank side on one sheet. And what I want you to do is take those statements and reverse them into positive statements about yourself. Like, for example, on the left side, you may have written down, I don't have enough time to take a vacation. And that could become, I am now easily making time for rest, recreation, and vacation. Wouldn't that be awesome? If you could go from telling yourself, I'll never have time for vacation, to now I have lots of time for rest and recreation and vacation. Okay, so things like that. Here's another one. If you're saying to yourself, I'm never going to get in shape, and your belly's starting to pooch out, you're having a hard time tying your shoes, and you're getting lightheaded all the time. Here's something you can say instead of saying to yourself, I'll never get in shape. It could become, I'm getting into shape, better shape every day. So what I want you to do, here's another one, just real quick here. I won't be able to earn enough money could become, an abundance of funds is flowing to me and I am grateful. So you could take things like that and just transfer them into a positive note and a positive saying about yourself. And this is going to be so powerful to identify yourself like that first step, and then transpose those things into negative things or positive things that you can say about yourself. Now, a couple things that you want to keep in mind when you are turning these into positive things. And just like in my story at the beginning, I felt like I wasn't saying truthful things about myself. But you know what? You have to remember that who you're talking to is your subconscious mind. And so that's important to say to yourself the things that you want to be. And really, if you think about it, anything that you've done successfully in your life, you've told yourself that you can do this. I can do this. And I would encourage you not to use the words like I'm trying, or I tried, or I want, or things like that. Use the word I am doing this, or I can do this, or mostly I am going to be doing this. And it'll really turn it into a very positive thing that your subconscious will listen to. And pretty soon you'll find yourself, instead of eating that junk food, you'll find yourself just for no reason at all. This is my experience. For no reason at all, you'll be choosing good food to eat, because you will have said to yourself, I'm a healthy guy. I don't eat that junk food. And again, don't use the word don't, but use the word I'm a healthy guy and I eat good, healthy food. So write those things down like that. Write the 2 pages. And if you do these 2 things, what you have in the end is a list of things that you would really like to become. So now you have your old self and your new self. Old self on the left, new self on the right. Now, what I want you to do is carefully, you can use a big old paper slicer or whatever, but I want you to slice this paper right down the middle. And I want you to take those negative things, that list of negative things, I want you to like get violent with it. Either burn it, crumple it up, stomp it in the ground, throw it in the trash compactor, whatever, but just get rid of that. Do more than just tear it up. Get violent with it and just, say to yourself, I'm turning away from this and I'm going in this direction now. And that will be a powerful mechanism that you can use to move to being a new person with these affirmations. Now the next thing, the third thing that you need to do is now you need to activate these things. Now you have a list of positive affirmations that you can start telling yourself. And here's what I want you to do. I want you to get creative with this. Either type it out on a computer and print it out. Maybe you can laminate it, or you could do colorful. You get colorful, creative with it. You can make pictures, do whatever. But have that list somewhere where you can see it, access it 2 to 3 times every day. You put it on your bathroom mirror. You put it on the refrigerator. You can put it on the ceiling above your bed, so when you're looking at it at night, you can go through it. If it's small enough, you can put it in your wallet or your briefcase. But I want you to get in the habit of going through this list every day. And one other thing when you're going through this list is you need to have a picture of the end result of those things. So if you're saying to yourself, I'm a healthy guy, you need to have a visual picture of you as a healthy person. So when you're saying these things, feel yourself and see yourself being that way. And that's going to add another whole part of the power of this. And just do that 2 or 3 times a day. Now, we're always going to, go back to our old self. It's just kind of, a given. So what I don't want you to do is get discouraged about this. So when you feel yourself sliding back into that self-talk of, I'm never going to get in shape, I'm never going to have enough money, just simply stop, catch yourself, stop, and say to yourself those new words. Just stick them in there. And then another thing, you might ask your family and friends to help you by simply pointing out some negative, destructive things that you're saying to yourself. Tell them you're on this new track and you are a new person. And so step 1 was writing out all the negative stuff. Step 2, transferring those on the other side of that sheet into a positive mindset, a more productive mindset, and then ripping that old one off and throwing it away. And then start using these. Use these every single day, 2 to 3 times every day. And I think you'll be so impressed with it. And the 4th step is just like what I did was I just watched the magic unfold. It was amazing to me, watching things change over the last few years. And just watching myself grow and experience things that I didn't think I ever would have experienced and seen in my life if I wouldn't have started on this process. Just one last little story that happened to me around this is a few years ago, and I started getting into doing triathlons, swimming, biking, and running, and so I decided I'd throw another crazy thing in there in my affirmation list. And I started saying to myself, this was so crazy to me. I'd say to myself, I'm a world-class athlete. I'm a world-class athlete. Here I am, like 55 years old. I'm a world-class athlete. I felt like craziest thing, but I saw this stuff work in the past. So I figured, I'm going to take a swing at it here. So I kept saying that to myself, and I think it was like 2 or 3 months later, and you call this whatever you want, but to me this was amazing. I got a letter from the U.S. Triathlon Association. It said, "Congratulations, Dave Skattum, you've qualified to compete in the World National Championship." Amazing. Check it out. Make this thing happen for yourself. It works. I'm just going to leave you with this one final quote. One of my a really good book that I really enjoy and get a lot out of is a book called As a Man Thinketh by James Allen. And here's what he said. Listen to this carefully. A man's mind can be likened to a garden, which may be intelligently cultivated or allowed to run wild. But whether you cultivate or neglect, it must and will bring forth. If no useful seeds are put into it, then an abundance of useless weed seed will fall therein and will continue to produce their kind.
You've been listening to The 4 Pillars of Men's Health with Dave Skattum. To learn more about the resources mentioned on today's show or listen to past episodes, visit the4pillarsofmenshealth.com.